My name is Roman. I am a Flutter GDE. I am also a lead organizer at GDG Lawrence. And I'm really excited to be sharing this session with you, which is about animations and high-end animations using the Rive library. By show of hands, who has heard of Rive? Awesome. I hear great people here. How about, have you shipped applications to production using Rive animations in your Flutter applications? By show of hands? A few? Okay, perfect. Awesome. So this is the best audience. So again, this session, what we're going to do, I'm going to guide you through the next evolution of UI and UX. We'll discover how Rive, not only as a tool, but as a real-time interactive animation software, and its lightweight runtime are actually redefining what is possible in Flutter. I'm going to show you also a couple of demos, and I'm going to show you how to break free from traditional static graphics, and then I'm going to show you how you can create dynamic, engaging experiences that will set your applications apart. I know that you guys are noticed how I'm tapping my phone. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but this is the first time that a presentation is going to be run from an emulator. The presentation is not using any slides application. This is actually running from an iOS iPad emulator, and I am going to be driving the slides from my watch. If you see my hand, when I do this, I could go back. When I do this, I'm going to go forward, and then I'm going to be controlling the presentation. So let's hope that the demo demons allow me to present it well. For example, I can go back to the previous slide. I can tap it from my phone, and I can do this, and then I'm going to be controlling the presentation. So let's hope that everything works. If not, I'm going to default to you running the presentation from my laptop. But it's just, again, something entertaining. By the way, this is an Android watch running a full version of Android where I deployed the same application that you're seeing, which is the slides. I deployed it on this watch. And I'm using Firebase Firestore to actually synchronize both the slides and my watch. So when I tap it, I go to the next slide. When I tap here, I'll go to the previous one. I could also use the gestures using the accelerometer. For example, when I do this, I go to the next one, and then I can continue swapping, or I do this, and I go backwards. There you go. So, okay, that was a demo? No, that was not. Thank you, by the way. But it's just to entertain you. Again, this is nothing that you will find on YouTube. That's why I wanted to make it entertaining for everybody. So why don't we start? So let's do it. There you go. So we're going to be discussing about Rive as the final frontier for graphics in Flutter. And I'm going to go to the next slide. So basically, animations are no longer aesthetics. They are a very crucial part for guiding user interaction, providing feedback, boosting interactivity, just like you can see right now. Flutter, of course, some of us know about Flutter and know how powerful the built-in Flutter animations are. For example, you could do explicit animations, implicit animations. You could use hero animations, physics-based. You could do like custom painter, and all of those are very powerful. But while robust, they can be time-consuming, and you can for complex, intricate designs. And you see, I already moved my hand. Often very repetitive and very allow you to create very manual coding. So now enter Rive. Rive emerges as a cutting-edge, real-time vector animation tool, which simplifies the creation of complex animations. For example, again, like I mentioned, all the slides that you will see here are animated in Rive. I'm just using Flutter as kind of like a shell, so I can display those animations through my Flutter application, the same thing on the watch. So like I was mentioning, Rive is a very rich and very powerful design and animation software, which is specifically designed for those complex animations, creating real-time interactive animations, unlike traditional tools like, for example, Lottie. Has anybody has experience with Lottie animations like Adobe? Exactly. So Lottie, this kind of serves as a competitor to Lottie because it allows designers to create animations that dynamically react to user interactions. For example, swipes, buttons like I showed you, and so on. So this allows designers to actually create animations that dynamically react to those interactions, but also are production ready. So I'm going to bring my animations again, and then I'm going to show you the next one. So we talked already about Flutter, how those are, again, kind of complex, but still very powerful, and you can still use them. But what I wanted to talk to you about was like how Rive uses these three pillars, which are the Rive editor, the Rive runtime, and the Rive renderer. The Rive editor is the editor through which you can, the creators actually design all the animations, bring them to life, and this is how you bring your vision, and then you animate that. The editor empowers not only you as developer, but also the creators to create production-ready graphics that are ready to ship, as opposed to you as a developer, you get handed like a Figma file or like a design spec, and they say, you have to code it exactly like the Figma file, and it never comes out 100%. Now we are empowering the designers to actually create the final graphics. They provide it to the developer, and the developer just integrates it into the code, and we only need to focus on those hard challenges. For example, let's say, talking to an LLM, connecting to an API, pulling data, connected with data. So all of these graphics are actually like data-driven, very interactive, very complex. And last but not least, you have the Rive renderer. Actually, I wanted to mention a little bit about the runtime, because right now, for example, there are two runtimes. Rive uses Impeller or Skia as the underlying graphics engine, depending on the platform and the version of Flutter, and then you use that to actually run those high-performance animations. And then the Rive renderer is that custom-built, blazing fast graphics engine. The Rive renderer is a major breakthrough in real-time vector graphics, allowing you for 120 frames per second, unprecedented amount of vectors that you can display on the screen, with superior performance and visual fidelity. The runtimes, you have runtimes for, like I mentioned, for web, iOS, for Android. Right now, we're running it on an iOS, and I'm also running the same application on an Android, but you have it for Unity, you have it for Unreal, and those like game engines. Let's continue, so I'm gonna try to tap in here, there we go. So Rive's core power relies on real-time interactive animations. So you have dynamic responsiveness, which again, Rive enables animations that react dynamically to user inputs, whether it's like a click, a swipe, scrolling, and whatnot. The state machine, which I'm going to show a little bit later, how the state machine is like this visual interface where designers define the animation, and they also define the states and the logic that allows you the transition between those animations. And this empowers the designers direct control over the interactive behavior, reducing that developer burden, because it usually relies on the developer to create those animations, recreate those animations in code, not anymore. And last but not least, the designer-developer contract. I'm going to be mentioning that a lot, the designer-developer contract, how the state machine acts as a contract that then allowing the designers to define the inputs, the booleans, the strings, the properties that then the developer just needs to tap into and then bring those animations to life. I'm going to show you a couple of those things. So for example, let me show you, I'm going to move from the presentation, and I'm going to show you, for example, a little bit of that. Like I can show you how, let's say, a Rive file looks like, for example. In this particular case, I'm going to show you here. I think I'll have it right there. I hope you guys can see it in the screen. For example, like here, for example, if you are doing like a game, has anybody used like sprites, like image sprites? Okay, so a sprite image, for example, if you see right there, that actually is 498 kilobytes. If I just show you this on a browser, for example, I can just drag it over, and I can show you that on a browser. I'll show you exactly what it is. So if I drag this sprite over to the browser, let's see if you guys can see it. So it's not allowing me, okay, so I just need to tap it, and then let's see if I can drag it. So I just drag it over, and then if you see it, it's just like a regular image sprite. But you saw the amount of kilobytes that it has. If you see this, let me actually, okay, perfect. So here it is. So you see the animation itself, like just the SVG is 498 kilobytes, while let's say one RIV file, one Rive file could be like 100 kilobytes, and it has like animated items with it. I created this tool called the Rive Inspector. I invite you guys to use it. You go rive-inspector.web.app. It's actually created in Flutter. and also created with Rive so that you can inspect like your own Rive files. And let's say you don't want to like open up the Rive editor, but you want to, let's say, view what a Rive file has. Check this out. If I just drag this, let me drag, for example, like one of these. Like, let me drag this Rive file inside of the tool that I created. If you just drag it over, and if you see, well, you didn't do it correctly. So let me try it again. It's just that all you need to do is just drag that Rive file. You can view it in your own, let's say, oh, I have to drag it in the one. Yeah, that's what it is. Sorry about that. So I just have to drag it right inside of there. That way you can see it. So I just wanted to show you how you can preview Rive files. If I just drag it over, there it is. So you see, this is like one single Rive file, which is 74 kilobytes, and you actually have a lot of animations embedded in it, all for the price of one single file. While you had one SVG, which was for 100 kilobytes, it was not animated. You still have to program it and show like the animations of the character. Here, for example, you have one single file that you can actually, click, you can move it around, you can tap, you can see, for example, like behavior and whatnot, and it's a single file, and it's already animated inside. So this is, again, the benefit of using Rive over, for example, like SVGs or PNGs or whatnot. So we're talking about like the kind of like the power of those real-time animations. So let's continue. So now we're going to talk about like performance and efficiency. So it has a very lightweight runtime. Again, the runtime is developed for each individual platform, and it's engineered for efficiency, ensuring like smooth, high-performance animations on your files. Like all the slides, like I showed you, they're all animated with Rive. It also has an intelligent optimization. The runtime is actually, again, part of the, it's packaged within your application bundle. The runtime, what it does, when animations are in idle mode, it actually pauses itself. So it reduces consumption, and then you don't have like that, like memory consumption, like memory hog or anything like that. And last but not least, the vector graphics. I showed you how, with one single Rive file, you could actually have vector images, but you also get a binary file. Not like, for example, like a Lottie file, which is JSON, it's all text. It's pretty bloated. If I show you again, for example, out here, I'm gonna show you now, for example, like the files. If I show you this, like, you see, like, for example, like one of these Rive files, it's actually like 100 kilobytes, but it's actually a binary file. You need the runtime in order to see it, but then that is kind of like the beauty that it gives you for that. If you see, for example, like a regular APK, and then I'm going to grab, for example, like a regular APK that I have like with Rive inside, and for example, what you do is like, what you could do like with a regular APK, as everybody knows, you can just rename it as a zip, for example, like this. You could just rename it as a zip. You can open it up. Let me try it again. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I just open it up. If I double click it, and if you see it, I open up the Rive file. If you go to the lib, for example, if you open up the lib and you go, for example, let's say to ARM64, if you see the SO file, which is the application's, like the executable, like the core file, it's like 4 megabytes. The Flutter library that it gets packaged as an SO file is actually 11 megabytes, but the Rive engine is 3 megabytes. So it only adds 3 megabytes to your bundle. Some people say like, yeah, but I don't want to use another library and it's going to make my bundle really heavy. No, remember, the Rive files are binary, they're pretty small, and all you're going to add to your bundle is 3 megabytes. As simple as that. So let me show you also another series of animations, like another application that I created that I could run it on the web, I could run it on Android, I could run it on my Mac, and all of that. This was, I don't know if you guys heard of that. It was like a hackathon for, I think, Global Gamers Challenge last year. So I created this game, and then, for example, you see all the graphics are developed in Rive. Every single item was then brought together into this application. I can just click on Start. You see like all the animations, all the transitions and whatnot. All that was created in Rive, brought inside of Flutter, and then assembled in Flutter. And then if you see that, you can play, you can do all you want, you can try, move your character. You see how smooth it behaves. You can interact with all of these buttons. All of those animations are created in Rive, and they're just brought into Flutter, just shown as a regular widget, as simple as that. And then you can just, play with your character, do all of that. All of this at 120 frames per second, dozens and even hundreds of animations executing at the same time, not even skipping a beat, and you could get like really smooth animations like that. So pretty cool. This is something that definitely I recommend. Okay, so let's continue. So now we're going to talk about a little bit about how, Rive versus the Rive renderer versus the impeller. Some people say, oh, but are they competing with each other? You have Impeller, you have Skia, depending on the platform. But the Flutter applications use their own engines. Rive has two runtimes. Has the regular Rive runtime and the Rive native runtime. The Rive regular runtime uses Impeller or Skia underneath it, depending on the platform or depending on the version of Flutter, but they coexist within the same application like I showed you. So they do coexist, they don't compete with each other. So if you see like applications where animation performance is paramount, Rive recommends using the native renderer, but you could still use the regular Rive runtime that actually taps into Impeller or Skia. But it's better to use the native renderer because it's developed in C++. You can do things like shadows, glows, and all of that that Skia or Impeller doesn't give you. If you could see right there in this graph, again, also animated and all of that. So starting with Flutter 3.10, Impeller has become the default for iOS. And starting with 3.29, then for Android, Impeller has become the default. And it's expected to expand to other platforms over time, of course. But Impeller, again, is Flutter's modern rendering engine designed for smooth performance UI. But if you want actually really high complex animations using like glows, shadows. You want to do data binding. You want to do like really heavy computations. You want to use the Rive renderer, which actually coexists with the Impeller Skia engine within your application. The way that it does, I don't know if you guys know that. The Rive renderer, which is written in C++, performs the actual drawing underneath it, and Flutter gives it a texture, it's like a native, it's kind of like a native texture that it gives you, and then it renders each frame of the animation directly onto this platform-specific native texture object. Then what it does, Flutter provides this texture, then Rive knows that this texture exists, and what it does is, as the Rive animation progresses, the Flutter engine, the Rive renderer draws on this native texture, and then it communicates to the Flutter framework that the texture refreshed, and it doesn't interfere with, let's say, the Dart framework or the whole pipeline of Dart. They both coexist at a very high performance without degrading your application. So that, again, that is one of the beauties of using the Rive renderer, which is, again, natively designed. So now let's go to the kind of like the meat of this presentation. So why did Rive, instead of continuously tapping on Skia or Impeller, why did they create their own native completely engine? Like, why did they create that? Why not tap on the existing one? It was because of this, vector feathering. Vector feathering is a sophisticated technique introduced by Rive so that they could do like soft glows and shadows. Unlike traditional ways of rasterizing blur effects, instead of using like Gaussian blur and rasterizing the vector graphic to a bitmap, which is very inefficient, they actually created their own technique. Let me show you exactly how that works. So if you see there, Rive's vector feathering is a proprietary technique that reinvents how soft edges are done, like in vector graphics per se, because the traditional methods of creating effects like soft glows, shadows, like inner shadows, outer shadows, and whatnot, it rely on a Gaussian blur, which is very computationally expensive, and then it actually rasterizes your vector image. You're actually losing all the quality of vector graphics. What it does is, this is very inefficient, it's non-scalable, and you lose the benefit of the vector graphics. Instead, this is achieved with a technique that they called triangle-based coverage interpolation. What they do is they tessellate triangles around the curve of the path to determine the opacity based on a normal distribution curve to calculate the coverage. And then you see kind of like it's truly mathematical calculations into play. Instead of rasterizing images, it's actually creating true blurs and soft edges on vector graphics. So it's very efficient. This is another feature of Rive that it's going to be a game changer, and I hope you guys explore it, which is the data binding feature. So data binding is a significant upcoming feature. It's available right now if you use the Rive native runtime. It's very significant because it will revolutionize the way that we interact with images. Images, you think is just an image that you just show, and then you programmatically display it. But these images are actually data-driven. Check this out. If I tap on the screen, if I click on that red dot, it's going to change the screen to red. The text is going to change it to red. And even the text changes if you see it. If I tap on the green one, you see how also the background changes to green. I change the text, I change the color. And if I click on the blue one, I change the background, I change the color, I change the text. And all is data driven. It's nothing like you have to create a bunch of code to actually make this happen. I'm going to show you actually that. So if I come back over here in my presentation, and I'm going to show you a live demo of this. Here it is. So for example, like data binding, if you show this one, I'm going to show you a little bit of this one that I wanted to show you initially with a vector feathering. For example, like this is a vector feathering effect that I created on Rive, and I'm just rendering it on Flutter. You see how like smooth edges, very soft glows, and kind of like that effect. You cannot achieve that just with Skia or Impeller. The Rive native engine is what actually causes that, and you can even do like really crazy effects to get your message across with really high 120 frames per second with really high quality. And then, for example, if you try, I don't know if you would try something like this in Flutter. If I do something like this in Flutter, it will take me, for example, like 100 lines of code. If I try something like this, imagine like the iPhone island, like melting on you. That effect is just a few lines of just Rive animations. And if I even show you, for example, like how much code it takes, that's all it takes. All I do is I just create a widget, I bring my animation from Rive, and then that's it. It's very high performance, super high quality, thanks to the Flutter, the runtime engine, the native engine running inside of Flutter. And this is what I wanted to show you as far as data binding. For example, if you run something like this, this is an application that is actually consuming the application's theme. And then I'm feeding the color of the theme to the graphic along with the type of theme. Is it the dark theme or the light theme? Right there, if you see on the bar, it says light mode, and then it's getting the light mode. If I just switch literally the theme of the emulator, I can switch it, the graphic changes, the text changes, and even the graphic changes, and it continues animating very smooth without skipping a beat, and I don't have to do much. This is the power of data-driven graphics, where you don't have to, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are going to raise their hands. Have you actually created one image for light mode and one image for dark mode? Yeah, there you go. So yeah, you sometimes you get to do that, but now not anymore, because now you could do like data-driven images that are very high performance, and then just respond to your let's say your theme and your application itself. Let's go back over. And now, for example, I've just shown you a lot of these demos. But really, this is the whole premise of that. So the design is the final product. Your design is the final product. With Rive, you work on assets. You don't work on mock-ups. There's no rebuilding in code anymore. There's not like a designer telling you, oh, you missed 3 pixels from this button. No. It's all empowered by the designer. The designer gives you the Rive file. All you need to do is just programmatically trigger booleans, strings, fire events, and whatnot. The designers can modify the design at any time, and they can just fit it, give it back to you, and they can manipulate anything at runtime. And all you need to do is just, again, like I said, just find kind of like the contract. Which properties? Which are the strings? Which are the booleans? Which are the numbers? Which are the colors? The properties that I need to feed data to so that this animation comes to life. So if you could actually do something like this, why not the whole application? Could you do this in Rive? Let me actually show you. So you could actually create the whole application even in Rive. So I'm going to show you this example right now. This is only one single Rive animation file, one single file. The file has a splash screen, it has a loading screen, it has the home page, it has a menu that I can tap. I can come over back to the menu, and I can click on home, like that. For example, if I reload it again, I'll show you, for example, how to change properties on it. If I can go back over, I can expand the menu. I can click on speakers. I have another page for the speakers. I can open up the menu one more time. I can click on sessions. You do have scrolling capabilities in Rive, and you can actually create all that with one single Rive file that you can import into one single Flutter page. Like you could use Flutter as a viewport. You can just bring the whole application in. You don't believe me? Let me show you. So if you could, for example, if you come over and then you want to say, okay, so I like this application, but how do you change properties in that Roman? Like, how complex would it be? Look how simple. If I just zoom it in right here, and you would see it, I'm going to collapse this so that you can see it. Look at all those properties. If you find a property, the designer gives you the contract. The designer tells you, there is a label called date label so that you can change the date. So I want to change it to June 25th and 26th. There is a label called subtext label. And then it says, developer event, I want to change it to builder party. There's another one called, for example, top text label, and then you find that. There's another one, for example, location. It says Brooklyn, New York City, but I want to change it to Stockholm, Norway, for example. And then, okay, no, I don't want to change, my name is Roman, but I want to actually make it more dynamic so that I can feed it live data from an API, from my event website, and I'm just going to programmatically feed it to it. So now if you change those properties and reload the application, you will see now how all those values are actually changed. You see how now it says the top-notch Flutter Builder Party, June 25th, 26th, Stockholm, Norway, and it actually even respected like a wrapping of text. You didn't have to do much, just change the properties. And let's see who that guy is, who's the speaker. Yeah, it's still me, which is okay, but let's say, for example, I want to change it to, James Jaquez. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. So if I just do that, and now I'm gonna switch it back to, let's say here, and I come over, and I go to speakers, there it is, James Jaquez. So you can truly, with data, drive those animations and drive your design. Like, everything is actually data-driven. So that is, again, the premise of using Rive as the final frontier of graphics, as the ultimate deliverable for your graphics in your Flutter applications. So again, we talked about the designer handoff. The state machine, like I told you, serves as the executable contract between the designers and developers. Again, Rive state machine as that visual contract. This streamlines the approach between, again, developers and designers. It frees the developers to focus on solving the real engineering challenges, instead of like recreating a button animation or like centering a div or centering a component for the 47th time. Not anymore. And I mentioned div because you actually could use this for the web as well. So that's the beauty of that. Like the designer creates it in Rive, and then anybody, all the groups, whoever's working on web, iOS, Android, desktop, could use the same graphic. All you need to know is abide by that contract. So that's pretty good. Again, how does it stack up against the status quo, or like what's out there right now? So this slide right here, it truly illustrates Rive's significant advantages over traditional Flutter development when it comes to animations, and Lottie as linear interactive design. While traditional Flutter, again, demands extensive manual coding, you have to create a lot of code to create like a really complex animation, often leading to performance issues, large file size, really hard to maintain. Lottie, of course, is widely used, and I know I totally respect everybody who's using Lottie, but it gives you can struggle with the performance. You get linear animations. You don't get this like non-linear and data-driven animations. What the beauty of Rive is because it's superior as far as like an integrated solution. It gives you the editor. It gives you all those runtimes. It ensures smooth 120 frames per second of optimized performance, enabling rich interactivity through built-in states. I'm gonna show you that, and of course delivering those binary files that are very lightweight, and you can use it across multiple platforms. So why don't we do that? I'm gonna come back over, and I'm gonna show you what the editor looks like. So let me just hover over, and I'm gonna show you how quickly we could do that. Here we go. So let's say I can just come over and open up, for example, Rive. So I'm gonna maximize this a little bit, and I'm gonna go to Rive. So if I go to Rive, you go to Rive.app, you can start for free. You don't have to pay for like the premium edition or the enterprise edition. You can start with like 3 projects for free. And if you go, for example, to the editor right away, which is actually developed in Flutter as well, and it's using the Rive native runtime underneath it. So let's see if it loads up. So what we're gonna create is, I'm gonna show you like this little animation of a robot. So I'm gonna zoom it in. This is how it is. So this is very simple. This is an animation of a simple robot. A robot is just composed of a bunch of just shapes, like squares and whatnot. But if you see here, I have like all those elements, right? Very simple. This is what gives you here is like all these are the timelines or the states of each animation. Like one animation is one timeline, or they call it like a state. And then you have the state machine, which actually orchestrates all the animations. It's very intuitive for those of you who come from the Flash times and creating animations. Adobe After Effects. You would be very familiar with this tool. But how would you make this data-driven? The way that you make it data-driven is like this. You could come over here to data, and I already have one right here, but I'm gonna redo it again. So if I just delete that, the way that you make this image very data-driven, you come over here to the data tab, you create a view model. I'm gonna call it, in my case, I'm gonna call it robot VM. Then this view model allows you to add multiple properties. You have numbers, strings, booleans, colors, triggers, or enumerations. So I'm gonna do one type color. Actually, that's trigger, but I don't want that. Let's delete that. Let's do it again. So I'm gonna do a string. I'm gonna call it name because I'm gonna map the name of the robot. I'm just gonna call it name. It's a string. I'm going to then add one type color. I'm gonna call it main color. Main color. And I'm gonna add another one, which I'm gonna make it also color, and I'm gonna call it secondary color. I say secondary color. How do you map it to this graphic right here? So the way that you do it, you select the graphic, you find the property that you wanna bind. In this particular case, I just wanna I come over here to the hierarchy, I'll just select, let's say, the head, right there, the head. If you scroll down here to the color property has this ability for you to create the data binding. You just right click on it. You could just go like this. Sorry about that. We'll select the head one more time. Here it is. You just go right over here. And here it gives you, for example, like the way that you could do the data binding. So right here, you could do, there it is. So it's not, okay, so this is just for feathering, but the command is not responding for me right now. But anyway, if you come over here and then you could do, for example, you could try, this is just for feathering, but I'm trying to bring up, okay, there it is. So if I do that, so it's not, got it. So I wish I had my mouse right now. But anyway, what you could do here is like, again, you immediately bind it, and then when you come over here to the actual main artboard, you can come over here and bind it to that view model. Let's say you could call it, the one that I call it robot VM. If you come over here then to data, and then you select that VM, you can change the properties right here. Let's say you can change the background, you can change the text, you can change all of that. But at least luckily, I'm not gonna make you go through that pain. I already have this created. So let's make believe that I already tied those, I already bound those. If I come back to my code, let me show you now in the code right here. I already have this animation loaded, so I'm gonna bring it over here. I'm gonna minimize this, and I'm gonna bring up my robot already created. Let me zoom it out a little bit, and here we go. So if I have this, and then I'm gonna show you that robot. So the robot is here. I'm gonna reload it, reload, and here it is. So it shows you right there, and look, this is how it works. So now after you bring your robot, and it's like already in your assets, you need to export, of course, the Rive file, which is right here. There it is, the robot.riv. All you need to do is find the instance of the view model that you created in your Rive file. You need to find that property. Remember, your designer will be giving you the contract. So it tells you that there's a property called main color, there's another property called secondary color, and there's another property called name. And then that way you can change, for example, programmatically, whenever you click on a button, you can change the colors and the text programmatically. When you reload it, now if I click on these buttons are already wired to changing the name, the main color, if you see it right there. See, I can change the name, the main color, and the secondary value. If you tap on one of these, you see how they change, the name changed, the color changed, the eyes changed. If I click on another one, I change the color, and I also change the text. So simple as that. That was just a simple example that I wanted to show. My keyword just wasn't working, apologies for that. But at least this is how easily you can create data-driven images, and then you can just bring it very easily in your Flutter applications. So let's start wrapping up. So now I'll show you, for example, like a couple of design time optimizations and runtime considerations, like I mentioned. You could use, make sure to kind of like don't use that much raster assets. Try to kind of like balance it. The best bang for your buck is using SVG images, but of course, if you need to use raster images, of course, use them like JPEGs and whatnot, but it's better to use SVGs. Try to import your Lottie files. Like your Lottie files, you can actually import it into, for example, if you bring it over here, if I show you this, for example, you wouldn't believe that this one right here, I think I have an example right here where this is actually a Lottie file that I just brought into Rive, and it was 20 kilobytes, and when I brought it into Rive, it actually reduced it by 50%. So it made it a 10 kilobyte animation. So if I show you, which again, I'm not lying, I'm going to show you right now. So if I show you the Lottie file, I think it's right over here. If I just go back, there is I think I just brought it in also. Right here. So onboarding that JSON, that is my Lottie file, it's actually 24 kilobytes, while the onboarding version of Rive is actually 10 kilobytes. So just by showing you here in real time, using Lottie, bringing it into Rive, it actually optimizes the Lottie files. So that is another thing that you need to make sure to be very aware of. Perfect. So just to wrap it up, I just wanted to say that, again, this is a great time for you to start learning Rive. It's not a very steep learning curve, but the great thing of Rive is that it redefines Flutter graphics with real-time interactive animations, a lightweight runtime, something that you can use on multiple platforms. Leading companies like Duolingo actually is using Rive. I introduced Rive at Philips, the company that I'm working on. Notion is using Rive. A lot of big companies are using Rive, so why not you? It's great because you get tangible benefits by enhancing the user experience, optimizing workflows, and remember that design developer handoff is pretty sweet. And again, because of this, that is the way why I consider that Rive is poised to become the UI format of the future. Rive is not just a tool. That's something to keep in mind. Rive is not just a tool. It's a strategic enabler for building next generation immersive user interfaces. So again, I hope that that's something that you can take away. And with that, again, thank you so much. If you scan the QR code, all the samples that I've shown here are on that QR code. I created a GitHub repo with the slides as well, so I'm giving it all to you. You can use those animations for even your own applications as well. We can connect on LinkedIn, and all my social media are in there. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap it up? Yes. The question is if Rive with Flame engine. It's pretty good. You could actually use Rive with Flame, but for example, Flame, it kind of like guides you to use like sprites and images like that. But if you try to integrate Rive into it, then you're taking Flame to another level, because then you're going to optimize the images and you're going to bring already animated assets that all you do is just flip a couple of properties and then you're good to go. So I definitely recommend, if you want to use Rive with the Flame engine to create games, it's a great combination. Any questions? Any other questions? Other than that, again, please scan the QR code. Thank you, everybody, for joining this session, and keep enjoying Fluttercon USA 2025. Thank you, everybody.